Lieutenant Olivia Daniels stared out the viewport of the ISS Phoenix, watching the stars glitter against the blackness of space. 3 months aboard the ship had not dimmed her wonder at the vastness of the universe. Her short brown hair floated slightly in the low gravity of the observation deck as she sipped her morning coffee from a sealed container. The soft beep of her communicator broke the silence. It was 0600 hours ship time, too early for routine communications. Lieutenant Daniels, a voice crackled through. It was Commander Alan Foster, his voice tense with barely contained excitement. Report to the bridge immediately. Olivia secured her drink and pushed off toward the door, using the handrails to propel herself through the ship's corridors. Other crew members were doing the same, their faces showing a mixture of confusion and anticipation. When she arrived at the bridge, Captain Eric Matthews stood at the central console, his tall figure hunched over the displays. His usually neat gray hair was mussed, suggesting he had been called from sleep. Around him the senior staff huddled, their faces lit by the blue glow of screens. "Lieutenant," the captain acknowledged her with a nod. "Look at this." He pointed to the main screen where a series of readings flashed. Olivia stepped closer, her eyes widening as she processed what she was seeing. The long-range sensors had detected an object moving at incredible speed toward the outer edge of the solar system. Its trajectory was too precise, too controlled, to be natural. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We believe so," said Dr. Paul Weber, the ship's chief scientist. His eyes were bright with excitement behind his glasses. "The object is approximately 300 meters long, made of materials not found in our database, and is slowing down in a manner consistent with controlled deceleration. We're picking up energy signatures unlike anything in our records," added Lieutenant Steve Howard from the sensor station. "Whatever it is, it's not from Earth or any of our colonies." Captain Matthews straightened up, his face solemn. "Ladies and gentlemen, after all our years of searching, it seems we have first contact with a non-human intelligence." A hush fell over the bridge. Olivia felt her heart racing. This was the moment humanity had both longed for and feared since. They first looked up at the stars. "Communications, any signals?" Matthews asked. "Nothing yet, sir," replied Communications Officer Linda Parker, her fingers moving rapidly over her console. "Wait, there's something coming through now." The main screen flickered, showing a series of geometric patterns. They shifted and changed, forming sequences that repeated with subtle variations. "It's a mathematical sequence," Dr. Weber said, moving closer to the screen. "Prime numbers, followed by what appears to be the first digits of pi. They're establishing basic communication." "Send back the next numbers in the sequence," ordered the captain. "Let them know we understand." For the next 12 hours, the crew of the Phoenix worked tirelessly, exchanging increasingly complex mathematical and pictorial communications with the alien vessel. Translation algorithms were hastily developed and refined as the messages grew, more sophisticated. Admiral Karen Wilson arrived via shuttle from Earth, her face grave with the weight of representing humanity in this historic moment. She called a meeting with the senior staff in the main conference room. "The Security Council has authorized a face-to-face meeting," she announced. The room erupted in excited murmurs, which she silenced with a raised hand. "Captain Matthews will lead the contact team. The aliens, who call themselves the Zephyrian Collective, have agreed to meet in a neutral module that will be attached to the ISS. Olivia, included in the meeting due to her expertise in xenolinguistics, felt a thrill of excitement and fear. The alien communications had revealed a species with a complex language and social structure, but so many questions remained. "What do they look like?" asked Medical Officer Grace Bennett. "We don't know yet," Admiral Wilson replied. "They've been reluctant to share visual data. Our scientists think they may perceive visual information differently than we do." Over the next week, preparations for the meeting consumed everyone aboard the Phoenix. A special module was brought from Earth and attached to the ISS to serve as neutral ground. The atmosphere was carefully adjusted to accommodate both human and Zephyrian biology, based on the limited information shared by the aliens. Olivia was chosen as part of the contact team due to her work on the translation algorithms. As she suited up on the day of the meeting, her hands trembled slightly. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Weber, who was checking his equipment nearby. "Wouldn't you be?" she replied with a small smile. "We're about to meet beings from another star system." Ambassador Lauren Wright, a tall woman with dark skin and a commanding presence, joined them in the preparation room. She had arrived from Earth just 2 days earlier, specifically chosen for her background in international diplomacy. "Remember," she told the team as they made final preparations, "we represent not just ourselves or our countries, but all of humanity. Every gesture, every word will be scrutinized and remembered for generations to come." Captain Matthews led them through the airlock into the neutral module. It was a simple space, with chairs and tables designed to accommodate both human and what they understood of Zephyrian physiology. One wall was transparent, facing out into space, perhaps as a reminder of the vastness that both species had conquered to reach this point. A soft hum announced the arrival of the Zephyrian shuttle. Through the viewport, they watched it dock with the other side of the module. Olivia took deep breaths, forcing herself to remain calm as the airlock on the opposite side began to cycle. When the door finally slid open, there was a moment of absolute stillness. Then they appeared. The Zephyrians moved with surprising grace. Their bodies resembled Earth octopi, but with a more rigid central mass and 12 tentacle-like appendages. Their skin shifted colors in patterns that seemed to flow across their bodies, blues, greens, and purples, that Olivia suspected might be a form of communication. Ambassador Wright stepped forward, offering the greeting gesture that had been agreed upon, an open palm held at chest height. "On behalf of humanity and Earth," she said, her voice clear and steady, "we welcome you to our solar system." The lead Zephyrian, later identified as High Communicator Valix, extended a tentacle in response. Its skin rippled with blues and greens that the translation matrix suggested indicated peaceful intent. The meeting progressed smoothly at first. Basic information was exchanged, and the translation devices worked better than expected. But then, Petty Officer Frank Collins, overwhelmed by the significance of the moment, forgot his training. When High Communicator Valix addressed him directly about Earth's atmospheric composition, Collins looked up and met the alien's compound, eyes with a direct human stare. 1 second passed. 2. 3. The Zephyrian's colors began to shift rapidly. 5 seconds. 6. 7. High Communicator Valix began to tremble visibly. Its colors flashed yellow and red. 9 seconds. 10. With a sound that the translation matrix could not interpret, the Zephyrian backed away violently. 3 of its tentacles went rigid while the others flailed in apparent distress. The entire Zephyrian delegation retreated, their skin uniformly showing patterns of alarm. The meeting ended abruptly with the Zephyrians returning to their vessel. All communication channels went silent. As the shocked human delegation returned to the Phoenix, Olivia couldn't help but wonder, what had they done wrong? What was it about a human's gaze that could cause such distress to beings from across the stars? Little did she know, they had just discovered one of the most important secrets about humanity's place in the cosmos, a secret that would shape interstellar relations for centuries to come. 3 days passed without a word from the Zephyrian vessel. The mood aboard the ISS Phoenix had shifted from excitement to worry. Captain Eric Matthews called emergency meetings twice daily, reviewing the incident from every angle. No one understood what had gone wrong. Petty Officer Frank Collins sat alone in his quarters, replaying the moment in his mind. His direct stare at the alien had somehow caused the diplomatic disaster. He felt the weight of potentially ruining humanity's first contact. "Officer Collins," came a voice from his door communicator. "This is Lieutenant Daniels. May I come in?" Collins sighed and pressed the entry button. The door slid open to reveal Olivia, her expression gentle but serious. "They want to see you on the bridge," she said. "The Zephyrians have finally responded." Collins felt his stomach drop. "Are they angry? Am I being blamed?" "No one is blaming you," Olivia assured him, though her tone lacked conviction. "We just need to understand what happened." When they arrived at the bridge, Admiral Wilson and Captain Matthews stood facing the main screen. On it was a Zephyrian, its skin displaying a calm pattern of blues and greens. High Communicator Valix has agreed to continue diplomatic relations, Admiral Wilson explained, but with new safety protocols. The translation of Valix's message began to play. We regret our abrupt departure. We were unprepared for the intensity of human visual contact. Our species finds direct eye contact deeply distressing when maintained beyond a brief period. Dr. Paul Weber leaned forward, fascinated. May we ask why this is so distressing? There was a pause before the Zephyrian responded. It is difficult to explain in terms your species would understand. When we look into human eyes for more than 10 of your seconds, we experience sensations that are overwhelming. Your gaze contains something our minds cannot process without distress. Captain Matthews stepped forward. We apologize for any discomfort caused. We had no idea our eye contact could be so troubling. It is not your fault, came the translated reply. We have encountered many species in our explorations, but none whose gaze affects us as yours does. We wish to continue relations, but request that your species wear protective eyewear in our presence, or train yourselves to avoid sustained eye contact. After the communication ended, the bridge was silent. Dr. Natalie Brown, the ship's xenobiologist, spoke first. I need to study the footage of the encounter, she said. There must be something unique about human eyes that triggered this response. For the next week, Dr. Brown barely slept. She reviewed the footage hundreds of times, consulting with medical officers and comparing human eye structure to the compound eyes of the Zephyrians. Something about the human gaze had profoundly disturbed the aliens, and she was determined to discover why. On the 8th day after the incident, she called an urgent meeting. The senior staff gathered in the conference room. Dr. Brown stood at the front, dark circles under her eyes betraying her lack of sleep. Behind her, a large screen displayed detailed images of human and Zephyrian eyes. I believe I've found the answer, she said, her voice excited despite her exhaustion. Look here. She played the footage of Colin staring at Valix but slowed down and zoomed in on the Zephyrians' compound eyes. Watch what happens to their visual organs during those 10 seconds, she explained. The pupil-like structures are dilating rapidly, and these receptor cells along the edge become engorged with fluid. She switched to a diagram of human eyes. Now, what I didn't consider at first is this. Human eyes are never truly still. Even when we think we're staring steadily, our eyes make tiny movements called saccades. These movements happen several times per second. Lieutenant Gregory Pierce from Neuroscience nodded. Those movements are essential for our vision. Without them, we'd actually stop seeing stationary objects. Exactly, Dr. Brown continued. But the Zephyrians don't have these movements. Their compound eyes work differently. When they look at our constantly moving eyes, something happens to their nervous system. She played another video, this one showing brain scans of a Zephyrian during a simulation of human eye contact. After about 5 seconds, their equivalent of a fight-or-flight response begins to activate. By 10 seconds, their entire nervous system goes into overdrive. It's as if our gaze somehow hacks their brain. Admiral Wilson frowned. Are you saying our eyes are weapons? Not intentionally, Dr. Brown clarified. But yes, in a way. The combination of our predatory forward-facing eyes, the intensity of our focus, and those constant micro-movements creates a pattern that overwhelms their neural pathways. Fascinating, said Dr. Weber. Humans evolved as pursuit predators on Earth. We're one of the few species that can run prey to exhaustion. Our gaze reflects that evolutionary history, the unwavering focus of a hunter. Ambassador Wright looked troubled. So when they look into our eyes, they see a predator? Yes, but more than that, Dr. Brown explained. According to their own scientists who shared data with me this morning, they see a predator unlike any they evolved with, something that doesn't look away, doesn't blink enough, and never loses focus. They described it as looking into the eyes of something that would chase them forever. The room fell silent as they absorbed this information. "How do we proceed?" Captain Matthews finally asked. "The Zephyrians have proposed a solution," said Ambassador Wright. "Special contact lenses for humans that reduce these micro-movements when viewed by their visual systems. They're also developing protective filters for their own eyes." 2 days. Later, a small delegation from the Phoenix prepared to meet with the Zephyrians again. This time, they all wore the special lenses designed by the alien scientists. Lieutenant Daniels found them slightly uncomfortable, but was told they only affected how their eyes appeared to Zephyrian vision, not human eyesight. The second meeting went much more smoothly. Both species were careful and respectful of each other's biological differences. The Zephyrians seemed more relaxed, their skin displaying calm color patterns throughout the discussions. After the successful meeting, Olivia found herself alone with junior communicator Nexil, a younger Zephyrian, who had shown particular interest in human culture. With the translation device between them, she decided to ask the question that had been on everyone's mind. "If you don't mind me asking," she began carefully, "what does it feel like when you look into human eyes without protection?" Nexil's skin rippled with thoughtful purples before responding. "It begins as unease. By 5 seconds it becomes fear. By 8 seconds, terror. By 10 seconds, we see things that are not there." "What kinds of things?" Olivia asked, fascinated. "Predators, from our evolutionary past. On our homeworld, we evolved in deep oceans. Our ancient predators would stare unblinking before attacking. But human eyes, they contain something more intense, a focus that seems to see through us, to track us no matter where we might hide." Nexil's skin briefly flashed yellow before returning to purple. "Your species hunted by chasing, did it not? Never giving up, following prey for days?" Olivia nodded. "Yes, persistence hunting, it's how we evolved." "That explains much," Nexil replied. "In your eyes, we see the gaze of the ultimate hunter, a predator that never stops, never loses focus, never gives up once it has chosen its prey." As Olivia left the meeting chamber, she thought about Nexil's words. Humans had always considered direct eye contact a sign of honesty and respect. How strange to discover that this same trait, so valued in human society, could inspire such primal fear in other species. The next day, word came that the Zephyrians had sent a message to other spacefaring races they were in contact with. The message contained a simple warning. When meeting humans, never stare into their eyes for more than 10 seconds. What you might see looking back at you is the most relentless predator the galaxy has ever known. 6 months passed since the first meeting with the Zephyrians. The ISS Phoenix had become the center of human-alien relations, with diplomatic teams from Earth rotating through regularly. Lieutenant Olivia Daniels had been promoted to Chief Communications Specialist, working closely with the alien representatives. The Zephyrians were not the only visitors anymore. 2 more species had made contact after receiving the message about humans. The Meraxians, a tall, slender species with 4 arms and skin that resembled tree bark, and the Veli, small creatures with fur-covered bodies and large, sensitive eyes. Dr. Natalie Brown had established a research team dedicated to what was now called the gaze effect. Scientists from all 4 species worked together, studying the unique impact of human eye contact on alien nervous systems. Olivia sat in the new xenobiology lab, watching as Dr. Brown conducted an experiment. A human volunteer sat on one side of a special screen, a Meraxian on the other. The screen would become transparent for precisely measured intervals, allowing eye contact between the two. "Ready?" Dr. Brown asked both participants. They nodded, and she pressed a button. The screen became clear. The Meraxian held the gaze for 6 seconds before its skin began to darken, a sign of stress in their species. By 9 seconds, it was visibly trembling. At exactly 10 seconds, it let out a sound like rustling leaves and turned away sharply. Dr. Brown made the screen opaque again. "Are you all right?" she asked the Meraxian. "Yes," the alien replied through its translator. "But it was, intense." like looking into an abyss that stares back. Dr. Brown nodded and made notes on her tablet. That's consistent with the reactions we've seen across species. The 10-second threshold appears to be universal, though the specific physiological responses vary. Later that day, Olivia joined Dr. Brown and Lieutenant Pierce for a review of the latest findings. The conference room walls displayed charts and brain scans from various test subjects. "What we're seeing is remarkable," Dr. Pierce explained. "When non-human species look into human eyes, their brain activity changes dramatically around the 7-second mark. Areas associated with threat detection become hyperactive. But that's not all," Dr. Brown added, pulling up a different set of scans. "By 10 seconds, they begin experiencing what can only be described as hallucinations. Many report seeing predators from their evolutionary past." Olivia studied the images thoughtfully. "The Zephyrians mentioned something similar. They said looking into our eyes made them see ancient ocean predators from their homeworld." "Exactly," said Dr. Brown. "We believe the micro-movements of human eyes combined with our direct focused gaze somehow triggers deeply buried survival instincts in other species. It's as if our eyes speak directly to the most primitive parts of their brains." The door to the conference room slid open and Captain Matthews entered with a tall human Olivia didn't recognize. "Sorry to interrupt," the captain said. "I'd like you all to meet Dr. Samuel Green from the Xenopsychology Institute on Earth. He's here to help with the research." Dr. Green nodded to the group. He was a lean man with a serious face and salt and pepper hair. "I've been following your work with great interest. The gaze effect has profound implications for human-alien relations." Dr. Brown welcomed him warmly. "We could use your expertise. We understand the physical reaction now, but the psychological impact is harder to quantify." "That's why I'm here," Dr. Green replied. "I want to understand not just how our eyes affect alien biology, but what it means for our place in the galactic community." Over the next few weeks, Dr. Green interviewed dozens of aliens who had experienced the gaze effect. He compiled their testimonies and analyzed them for common themes. One evening, he called the research team together to share his findings. "The results are fascinating," he told them, his eyes bright with excitement. Despite coming from different evolutionary backgrounds and having different physiologies, all three species described the human gaze in remarkably similar terms. He displayed a word cloud on the main screen. Words like hunter, predator, relentless, patient, and ancient appeared most prominently. "When they look into our eyes," Dr. Green continued, "they don't just see us as individuals. They see humanity's evolutionary history as apex predators. They see our ancestors who would track prey for days without rest. They see the focused determination that allowed our species to spread across our entire planet." Lieutenant Pierce whistled softly. "So to them, our gaze isn't just uncomfortable, it's terrifying on a primal level." "Precisely," Dr. Green agreed. "And here's where it gets even more interesting. I asked them to describe what they thought when meeting humans before knowing about the gaze effect. Many said they found us puzzling because we seemed both peaceful and frightening at the same time. Our body language and behavior suggested cooperation, but something about us still triggered their warning instincts." Olivia considered this. "So our eyes betray our predatory nature, even when we try to hide it under diplomacy and friendly behavior?" "In a way, yes," said Dr. Green. "But I wouldn't call it betrayal. It's simply a part of who we are. Humans evolved as social predators. We hunt together, we protect our communities, and we focus intensely on our goals. These traits made us successful on Earth, and they're reflected in our gaze." Captain Matthews, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. "How does this affect our diplomatic position? Will other species always fear us because of this?" Dr. Green smiled. "Fear isn't necessarily negative in this context. There's something else all the testimonies share, a sense of respect. Yes, they find our gaze uncomfortable, even frightening, but they also admire the evolutionary strength it represents." Later that night, Olivia couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about what Dr. Green had said. She made her way to the observation deck, hoping the view of the stars would clear her mind. To her surprise, junior communicator Nexel was already there. The Zephyrian skin glowed softly with gentle blue patterns in the dimly lit room. "Couldn't sleep either?" Olivia asked, approaching slowly. "We require less rest than humans," Nexel explained. "I often come here to think." They stood in companionable silence for a while, looking out at the stars. Finally, Olivia voiced the question that had been bothering her. "Do you think other species will always be afraid of humans because of our eyes?" Nexel's skin shifted to thoughtful purples. "Not afraid. Cautious, perhaps. But there is something about your species that inspires both caution and curiosity." "What do you mean?" "The same intensity that makes your gaze frightening also makes your species remarkable," Nexel explained. "You look at the stars with the same unwavering focus as you look at each other. You pursue knowledge with the same determination your ancestors used to pursue prey." The Zephyrian turned to look at Olivia, careful to keep the protective filters over its visual organs. "In our culture, we have a saying, 'Know the nature of your ally as well as your enemy.' We see in humanity's eyes the nature of your species, persistent, focused, relentless when pursuing a goal. This makes you potentially dangerous, yes, but also valuable allies." Olivia smiled. "I never thought our evolutionary history as hunters would become a defining feature in our relationships with other species." "All species carry their evolutionary history," Nexel replied. "Yours is simply more visible than most." As they continued to watch the stars together, Olivia realized that the discovery of the gaze effect had revealed something profound, not just about how aliens saw humans, but about humanity itself. Their eyes carried the story of their species, a story of determination, focus, and never giving up the hunt. In the vastness of space, those qualities might turn out to be humanity's greatest strength. 1 year after first contact, the humans aboard the ISS Phoenix were preparing for a major diplomatic event. Representatives from 12 alien species would attend a conference to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. The discovery of the gaze effect had spread throughout nearby star systems, making humans both famous and slightly feared. Olivia Daniels stood in her quarters, adjusting her new uniform. As head of interspecies communications, she would play a key role in the upcoming meetings. A small case on her desk held her special contact lenses designed to dampen the effect of her gaze when speaking with aliens. All human diplomats now wore them as standard protocol. A soft chime announced a visitor at her door. "Enter," she called. The door slid open to reveal Captain Matthews. His face looked tired but pleased. "Ready for the big day?" he asked. Olivia nodded. "As ready as I can be. It's hard to believe how much has changed in just 1 year. Who would have thought a simple staring contest would reshape galactic diplomacy?" Matthews said with a small smile. "Admiral Wilson just arrived with the Earth delegation. She wants to see you before the conference begins." Olivia followed him to the newly constructed conference center. The station had been expanded significantly to accommodate the growing number of alien visitors. The main hall could now seat representatives from 20 different species, each section adapted to their specific biological needs. Admiral Wilson waited in a small room adjacent to the main hall. Her uniform was adorned with additional medals and insignia reflecting humanity's new status in interstellar politics. "Lieutenant Daniels," she greeted Olivia warmly. "Your research team's work has been invaluable. The President asked me to personally thank you for your contributions." "Thank you, Admiral," Olivia replied. "But the credit belongs to Dr. Brown and the whole research team." "Of course," Wilson nodded. "But your insights regarding communication protocols have helped prevent numerous diplomatic incidents. That's why I'm promoting you to Commander effective immediately." Olivia blinked in surprise. "Commander, I'm honored, but—" "No buts," Wilson said firmly. "You've earned it, and we need someone with your expertise for our newest initiative." She handed Olivia a tablet displaying plans for a massive ship. "This is the Horizon," Wilson explained. "The first human deep space exploration vessel. It will carry scientists and diplomats to make contact with species beyond our current reach." We want you to be the chief communications officer. Olivia stared at the plans, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. When does it launch? 6 months, Wilson replied. Enough time for you to complete your work here and prepare for the mission. Before Olivia could respond, her communicator beeped. Excuse me, Admiral, the delegates are arriving. The conference began with formal introductions of each species. Besides the familiar Zephyrians, Meraxians, and Veli, there were new faces. The insect-like Trisali, the gaseous Nubari who floated in special containment suits, and 7 others, each more alien than the last. All human delegates wore their special contact lenses. Most alien representatives wore their own protective eyewear as well, having been warned about the gaze effect. The precautions allowed for comfortable interaction without risk of triggering the primitive fear response. During a break in the proceedings, Olivia found herself speaking with Goral, a representative of the Trisali. The insectoid being stood nearly 7 feet tall, with compound eyes and a hard exoskeleton. Your species fascinates us, Goral said, its translator converting the clicks and chirps into English. We heard warnings about human eyes before we arrived. Many believed they were exaggerated. Were they? Olivia asked. No, Goral replied. One of our scientists conducted an experiment without protection. The effect was profound. I hope they weren't too disturbed, Olivia said with concern. Actually, they found it enlightening, Goral explained. In our culture, we value the understanding of predators. To know a predator is to know a fundamental truth of existence. Olivia considered this. And what truth did they find in human eyes? Persistence, Goral answered without hesitation. Your eyes tell the story of a species that does not give up. This is why many species both fear and respect humans. Later that evening, a special demonstration had been arranged. Dr. Brown and her team had prepared a presentation on their latest findings regarding the gaze effect. Representatives from all species gathered in the research center's main auditorium. Dr. Brown stood at the podium with Dr. Green and Lieutenant Pierce beside her. Behind them, a large screen displayed images of human eyes in extreme close-up. Thank you all for coming, Dr. Brown began. Over the past year, we've studied the unique effect human eye contact has on non-human nervous systems. Today, we believe we understand why this phenomenon occurs. She gestured to the screen, which now showed a slow-motion video of human eyes. Human eyes make approximately 3 to 4 micro-movements per second. These saccades are essential to our vision, but they create a specific pattern that triggers responses in alien brains. Dr. Green stepped forward. We've discovered that the frequency of these movements, combined with the intensity of human focus, creates what we call a neural resonance pattern. This pattern happens to match threat recognition frequencies in many species' brains. In simple terms, added Lieutenant Pierce, when you look into human eyes for more than 10 seconds, your brain begins to vibrate at a frequency associated with extreme danger. It's like a key unlocking a very old door in your mind, a door to primal fears. A Zephyrian diplomat raised a tentacle. Is this effect unique to humans? Do other species from Earth cause similar reactions? Excellent question, Dr. Brown replied. We've tested other Earth predators, lions, wolves, eagles, and while they cause some discomfort, none produce the same intense reaction as human eyes. We believe it's because humans combined predatory focus with higher intelligence, creating something uniquely disturbing to other species' neural systems. After the presentation, attendees were invited to experience a safe version of the gaze effect. Using special screens that filtered the most disturbing aspects of human eye contact, aliens could experience a mild version of the sensation without the full fear response. Olivia watched as various delegates tried the experiment. Some recoiled, even from the dampened effect, while others seemed fascinated despite their discomfort. A Meraxian delegate approached her afterward. Now I understand why the warnings spread so quickly among spacefaring races, it said. Your eyes contain something ancient, something that speaks directly to the part of us that remembers being prey. Does that worry you? Olivia asked. About forming alliances with humans? The Meraxians' bark-like skin rippled in what Olivia had learned was their equivalent of a thoughtful expression. Actually, it reassures me. A species with such focus will make a determined ally. Your eyes tell us that humans do not abandon their friends or their enemies. There is value in such certainty. As the conference continued over the next several days, Olivia noticed a shift in how the alien delegates interacted with humans. There was still caution, still the careful avoidance of prolonged eye contact, but there was also a new respect. The fear triggered by human eyes was being reframed as recognition of human determination and loyalty. On the final evening, Captain Matthews hosted a dinner for the senior delegates. Glasses were raised in a toast to successful negotiations and new friendships across species boundaries. To understanding, Matthews said, even when that understanding begins with fear. The alien representatives clicked, hummed, and whistled their agreement, each in their own way. As Olivia looked around the room, she realized that humanity's predatory gaze, once just a quirk of their evolution on Earth, had become their introduction to the galaxy. Their eyes had revealed a fundamental truth about their species before they could hide it beneath diplomacy and protocol. Humans were hunters. Patient, focused, relentless hunters. And now they would hunt among the stars. Not for prey, but for knowledge, friendship, and a place in the vast community of intelligent life. 5 years had passed since first contact with the Zephyrians. Commander Olivia Daniels stood on the bridge of the Horizon, Earth's first deep space exploration vessel. The massive ship had been her home for the past 3 years as it traveled to the edges of known space, making contact with new species and establishing diplomatic relations. The view screen showed their latest destination, a massive space station built by the Galactic Council, a loose alliance of 28 spacefaring species. Humans were not yet full members, but they had been invited to present their case for membership. Nervous? Asked Captain Patrick Miller, a tall man with dark skin and a calm demeanor. A little, Olivia admitted. We've come a long way, but there are still many species who know humans only by reputation. The reputation of humans had spread far faster than humans themselves. Stories about their predatory gaze had traveled from species to species, growing more elaborate with each telling. On some worlds, parents now told their children to behave or, "The humans will stare at you." "Docking procedures complete, Captain," announced the pilot. "The Galactic Council representatives are ready to receive our delegation." Olivia joined the small group of humans preparing to board the station. Dr. Natalie Brown was there, now the leading expert on interspecies biology. Ambassador Peter Hall, a seasoned diplomat, led the group. All wore the standard-issue contact lenses that dampened the effect of human eyes. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, with seating arranged in tiers for representatives of many different biological types. Some needed water tanks, others special atmospheric chambers. In the center was a speaking platform where delegates could address the assembly. A tall, willowy being with iridescent skin approached them. "Welcome to Central Station," it said through a universal translator. "I am Ilani, your guide during these proceedings." Ilani led them to their designated seating area. "The Council has been eager to meet humans in person," it told them. "Your species has become quite famous, or perhaps infamous." Ambassador Hall smiled politely. "We hope to move beyond simple reputation and establish meaningful relationships with all Council members." "Of course," Ilani replied. "Though I should warn, some representatives may wish to experience the human gaze directly. It has become something of a rite of passage among younger diplomats." Olivia exchanged glances with Dr. Brown. This was unexpected. The human gaze, once feared, had apparently become an object of curiosity and even fascination. The proceedings began with formal introductions. One by one, representatives from various species welcomed the human delegation. Most were cordial, though some showed clear signs of caution. When it was Ambassador Hall's turn to speak, he stepped onto the central platform. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I thank the Galactic Council for this opportunity. We come in peace and friendship, seeking to learn from and contribute to the greater galactic community." His speech was well received, but during the following recess, Olivia noticed several young delegates from different species watching the humans with obvious curiosity. One of them, a Meraxian who appeared younger than those she had met before, approached her. "Is it true?" the young Meraxian asked. "About human eyes?" "What have you heard?" Olivia responded carefully. "That looking into human eyes for more than 10 seconds shows you the face of death," the Meraxian said, its bark-like skin rippling with excitement rather than fear. "That humans can see into your soul with their gaze." Olivia suppressed a smile. "The effect is biological, not mystical. Our eyes trigger certain responses in non-human brains." "Would you show me?" the young diplomat asked eagerly. "I have brought protective filters but adjusted to allow more of the effect through." Before Olivia could respond, an older Meraxian hurried over. "Please excuse my junior colleague," it said firmly. "They have not yet learned proper diplomatic restraint." "It's all right," Olivia assured them. "Curiosity is natural." She turned to the younger Meraxian. "Perhaps another time, in a more controlled setting." Later that day, during a formal dinner, Olivia found herself seated next to Dr. Kiran Patel, the Horizon's chief psychologist. He had been quietly observing the interactions between humans and aliens. "Notice something interesting?" he asked, leaning toward her. "The younger representatives are fascinated by the human gaze, while the older ones remain cautious." "I did notice that," she replied. "The young Meraxian practically begged me to stare at him." Dr. Patel nodded. "The fear is becoming mythologized. What began as an instinctive reaction has evolved into a cultural fascination. In some species, experiencing the human gaze has become a test of courage. Is that a good thing?" Olivia wondered. "It's neither good nor bad, just interesting," Dr. Patel said. "It shows how quickly cultures adapt. What was once seen as a threat is now seen as a challenge to overcome or a mystery to explore." The next day, the council held a special session about humans joining the alliance. Most representatives spoke in favor, citing humanity's technological innovations and diplomatic efforts. Others expressed concerns about human expansion and their predatory instincts. A Zephyrian elder rose to speak. Olivia recognized High Communicator Valix, now much older, its skin showing more subdued color patterns. "When we first met humans," Valix began, "their gaze terrified us. We saw in their eyes a predator unlike any we had evolved to fear. But over time, we learned this same intensity that frightens is also what drives humans to explore, to discover, to connect with others, unlike themselves." Valix's skin shifted to a pattern of deep blues and purples. "The human gaze reveals their true nature, not just as hunters, but as seekers. They look upon the universe with the same unflinching focus with which they once tracked prey. This makes them dangerous, yes, but also valuable as allies. They will pursue knowledge, justice, and friendship with the same determination." After Valix's speech, the mood in the chamber shifted noticeably. Even the most hesitant representatives seemed more thoughtful than fearful. When the final vote was taken, the result was clear. Humans would be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council, with full membership to be considered after a probationary period of 3 standard years. That evening, the human delegation celebrated their success. Olivia stood at a viewport looking out at the stars when she felt someone approach. It was Dr. Brown. "Quite a journey from that first disastrous meeting, isn't it?" Dr. Brown said. Olivia nodded. "Who would have thought our biggest evolutionary disadvantage would become our diplomatic calling card?" "It makes sense in a way," Dr. Brown replied. "Our eyes tell the truth about us before we can hide it with words. Other species see what we really are: persistent, focused, determined." As the celebration continued around them, Olivia thought about how far they had come. The human gaze, once a source of fear and misunderstanding, had become a symbol of humanity's place in the cosmos. Yes, they were predators with the focus and determination that came with that evolutionary history, but they were also explorers, diplomats, and friends. Across the galaxy, the warning remained the same. Never look into a human's eyes for more than 10 seconds. But now, it carried a new meaning. A reminder that in those eyes, one could see the true spirit of humanity, relentless in pursuit, unwavering in focus, and determined to forge connections among the stars.